I'd been suspicious of Tom, my husband, for a few months. He'd started acting cagey, disappearing into parts of the house for no good reason, and sometimes I'd catch him practically jumping out of his skin when I walked into his home office unannounced. At first, I feared the worst, an affair. My stomach would knot up every time that thought surfaced, but my gut told me it was something else, a secret even stranger than cheating. Tom had always been a straight-laced kind of guy, maybe even a little old-fashioned. An engineer, logical and practical, his closet was a sea of button-downs, slacks, and a few plain workout clothes. Nothing in our 10 years together ever hinted at another side to him, an inner world more complex than his calm, predictable exterior. My suspicions hit their peak one Saturday afternoon. Tom said he had some stuff to sort out in the garage. I was in the kitchen, trying to nail a new cake recipe, but my mind kept replaying his weird behavior. Then I heard it, a faint sound, like fabric rustling, coming from our upstairs bedroom. The garage was downstairs. My heart started to pound. Tiptoeing up the stairs, I tried to be silent. The bedroom door was cracked open just a hair. Holding my breath, I peeked through the sliver. And then I saw him. Tom was standing in front of the full-length mirror, the one I usually used for checking out new dresses. But the reflection wasn't entirely the Tom I knew. He was wearing a pale pink silk nightgown, one I remembered tucking away in a bottom drawer because it was too slinky, not really my style. His hair was a bit tousled, and his face held a complicated mix of expressions, a little confusion, a touch of curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of pleasure. I was floored. My throat went dry. A million questions raced through my head. What was this? Why? How long had this been going on? Tom turned, the soft silk of the nightgown flowing with his movement. He ran a hand over his waist, then glanced down at his own legs, strong, masculine legs, now draped in delicate fabric. A flash of embarrassment crossed his face, but then he smiled again, a private, almost secretive smile, like he was discovering a hidden part of himself. The initial shock wore off, replaced by a strange new feeling bubbling up inside me. It wasn't anger about being lied to, and it wasn't disgust, not really. It was an intense curiosity, mixed with an unexplainable thrill. The image of my tough, capable husband in this feminine getup was weirdly captivating. It shattered all my assumptions, all the norms, and poked at a part of me I didn't even know was there. I backed away slowly, careful not to let Tom see me. I needed time to process this, to think. Tom's secret was out, at least to me. And somehow, instead of feeling devastated, I felt a jolt of new energy, an opportunity to do something different. Dinner that night was a quiet, tense affair. Tom seemed miles away, occasionally shooting me searching glances, as if trying to gauge if I knew anything. I played it cool, but a plan was already taking shape in my mind. I wouldn't confront him right away. I'd wait, watch, and pick my moment. Over the next few days, I kept a discreet eye on Tom. I figured out he only indulged in his secret dress-up sessions when he was sure I was out or tied up with something else. He had a hidden box on the top shelf of his closet, his treasure chest, a few of my old dresses, a black lace lingerie set I'd tossed, and even a beat-up pair of my old high heels. Looking at that stuff, I had to chuckle. It was all so worn out, so out of style. If Tom was going to have this hobby, he deserved better, more fitting things. And that's when the idea of the lingerie store popped into my head. Coercion, yes, that would be part of it. Tom would never walk into a place like that on his own. He was too timid, too terrified of being judged. But I knew how to make him toe the line. 10 years of marriage had taught me his weaknesses, his private fears. And this time I wouldn't think twice about using them. One evening, while we were watching TV, I casually dropped, "Tom, you know, I think you should try some new things." Tom looked up, surprised. "What do you mean, Kathy?" I smiled, the kind of smile I knew could make him a little antsy. "I think we should do something, a little bold. Shake things up." A flicker of nervousness in his eyes. "What exactly are you talking about?" You'll find out soon enough, I said, my voice loaded with implication. But brace yourself, Tom dear. It's going to be very interesting. My plan was in motion. And I couldn't wait to see how it would play out. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt for the manipulation, but a bigger, louder part of me was buzzing with an unusual excitement. I was about to uncover a whole new side of my husband, and maybe, a new side of myself too. That weekend, I decided it was time. Saturday morning, after breakfast, Tom was in the living room reading the paper. I sat down across from him, putting on my serious face. Tom, I started, trying to keep my voice even. We need to talk. He lowered the newspaper, looking at me, a question in his eyes. What's wrong, Kathy? You seem on edge. Not exactly on edge, I said, picking my words. It's just. I think it's time we were completely honest with each other about a few things. I paused, looking him straight in the eye. Like, your little secret, for example. The color drained from Tom's face. The paper slipped from his fingers and landed on the floor. He stammered, "A secret? What are you talking about?" I raised an eyebrow. Really, Tom? The pink silk nightgown. The box on the top shelf. Need I go on? Panic flashed across his face. He went white, then beet red. Kathy. You. How long have you known? Long enough to know you're hiding a part of yourself, Tom. And I don't like it. My voice was a little colder now. Truthfully, the hiding itself wasn't the main issue. It was his lack of guts to share it, or even to fully own up to it himself. Tom hung his head, twisting his hands together. I'm sorry, Kathy. I don't know how to explain. I was afraid you'd be disgusted. Disgusted? I let out a short, sharp laugh. Tom, what disappoints me is the dishonesty. But we can deal with that later. I stood up, pacing. I have a plan. A way for you to explore this side of yourself more, openly. He looked up, his eyes wide with fear. Openly? What do you mean? I mean, I stopped right in front of him. We're going shopping. Shopping for some more, appropriate things for your inner girl. Shopping? Where? Tom's voice was shaky. A lingerie store, I announced, watching his reaction. Just as I figured, Tom shot up from his seat. No. Absolutely not, Kathy. Are you nuts? I can't do that. People will see. They'll what, Tom? I cut him off, my voice challenging. Laugh at you? Judge you? You care more about what strangers think than what your own wife thinks. It's not that, he protested, but it was weak. It's just. I can't. It's too humiliating. Humiliating? I stepped closer, my voice dropping but laced with power. Tom, you've been sneaking around behind my back doing this. You don't think that's humiliating? Now I'm giving you a chance to do it properly, with my support, and you're turning me down? He was silent, his face etched with misery. I knew I'd struck a nerve, his deep-seated insecurity. Listen, Tom, I went on, I'm not going to force you to do anything you really don't want to. But I need you to understand, if you pass up this chance, if you refuse to explore this part of yourself with me, then I'll have to assume you don't really want to change, don't really want to be honest with me. And that will have consequences. Consequences? He swallowed hard. What kind of consequences? I gave him a sly smile. You'll find out. But trust me, you won't like them. Maybe I'll casually mention your special hobby to a few of our friends. Or maybe those things in that box of yours will just disappear. It was a naked threat, and I saw him flinch. I didn't actually want to do any of that, but he needed to know I was dead serious. Silence hung in the room. Tom stared at the floor, clearly wrestling with himself. I waited, patiently. I knew he had a choice to make. Finally, after what felt like forever, he looked up, his voice hoarse. Okay, Kathy. You win. We'll go. A smile of triumph spread across my face. Good, Tom. I knew you'd make the right decision. I patted his shoulder. Get ready. We're going this afternoon. This afternoon? He looked horrified. Can't it wait? Nope, can't wait, Tom honey, I said firmly. Sooner the better. Don't sweat it too much, I'll be right there with you. And who knows, you might even like it. Tom didn't answer, just let out a sigh of resignation. I knew he was still terrified and ashamed, but a tiny part of him, however small, was probably curious. And that was all I needed. The rest of the morning, the air in the house was thick with tension. Tom avoided eye contact, trying to look busy with little chores. I left him alone, not wanting to pile on more pressure. But every now and then, I'd catch him sneaking a glance at me, his eyes full of anxiety and something I couldn't quite name. I got ready for our outing carefully. I picked out something comfortable but chic for myself. As for Tom, I didn't say a word. Let him wear whatever made him feel safe, at least until we got to the store. When the clock hit 2, I called out, Tom, time to go. He came out of his study wearing an old shirt and jeans, looking like he was heading to his own execution. I had to bite back a laugh. You look great, I said, trying to sound casual. Let's go, our little adventure is waiting. He didn't say anything, just trailed silently behind me to the car. On the drive to the mall, where the lingerie store I'd picked out was located, the silence in the car was heavy. Tom stared out the window, his hands clenched tight in his lap. I put on some soft music, hoping to lighten the mood, but it didn't seem to help. Try not to worry so much, Tom, I said softly, resting my hand on his shoulder. I promise, it'll be okay. Just think of it as a new experience, a way for us to get to know each other even better. He just nodded, but I knew his mind was still a mess. This trip, I thought, was going to be a turning point. Whatever happened, our relationship would never be the same. And a part of me, strangely, was excited by that. Change, even when it's scary, always brings something new. The mall was a madhouse. Music blaring, people talking and laughing everywhere. Tom hunched over, trying to make himself invisible in the crowd. He stuck close behind me, head down, avoiding everyone's eyes. I sighed to myself. His self-consciousness was off the charts. Lingerie Dreams was tucked away in a quiet corner on the second floor, but its neon pink sign and mannequins in sexy lingerie still grabbed your attention. I took Tom's hand and pulled him along faster. Here we are, I said, trying to sound upbeat. Tom froze in front of the store, eyes wide as he peered inside. Through the glass, he could see racks and racks of bras, panties, and nightgowns in every color and fabric imaginable, all artfully displayed. He looked like he was about to be sick. Kathy. I don't think I can do this, he stammered, trying to wrench his hand free. I tightened my grip. Don't be ridiculous, Tom. We're already here. No backing out now. I practically dragged him into the store. A little bell over the door jingled. We stepped into a softly lit space that smelled faintly of lavender, with mellow music playing. It was a world away from the chaos outside, calm and quiet, with just a couple of women browsing. A young saleswoman with a sassy pixie cut and a bright smile came right over. Welcome to Lingerie Dreams. I'm Sally. What can I help you two with today? Sally's eyes flicked from me to Tom, who was trying to melt into the floor behind me. The tiniest flicker of surprise crossed her face, but she quickly smoothed it over with a professional smile. I smiled back. Hi, Sally. We need a little special assistance today. I gently nudged Tom forward. This is my husband, Tom. We're looking to find him a few things. Sally blinked, then her smile got even wider. Oh, fantastic. Not a problem at all. We love helping all our customers find exactly what they need. She gave Tom a playful wink. So, Mr. Tom, what kind of vibe are you going for today? Romantic, sexy, or just everyday comfort? Tom went rigid, his face turning fire engine red. He mumbled something incoherent, staring at his shoes. I had to jump in. Actually, Tom's a little overwhelmed, I explained. He's not used to this. We were thinking of starting with the basics, maybe a bra and some panties. Gotcha. Sally nodded, completely unfazed and non-judgmental. Her open, friendly vibe was a huge relief. Okay then, first things first, let's get Mr. Tom's measurements so we can find the perfect bra size. Right this way. Sally led us to a more private area at the back, with large fitting rooms and a plush armchair. Tom trailed after her like a zombie, still not daring to make eye contact. Mr. Tom, would you mind taking off your jacket and shirt? Sally asked, a soft measuring tape in her hand. Tom shot me a pleading look. I nodded, giving him an encouraging smile. It's okay, Tom. Just do what Sally says. After a moment's hesitation, Tom slowly took off his jacket, then his shirt, leaving him in a thin t-shirt. Sally was all business, quickly looping the tape around Tom's chest, jotting down numbers. Your band size is a 36, Sally announced, and your cup measurement is about the same. So, a pretty flat chest, but no worries, we have tons of amazing padded bras that can work wonders for shaping. Tom let out a soft groan, ducking his head even lower. I saw his shoulders give a little tremble. Okay, Sally, I cut in, so with those numbers, what bra size should Tom be looking at? For those measurements, a 36A or a padded 36B would be a great place to start, Sally replied. Let me grab a few styles for Mr. Tom to try on. She zipped off behind the racks, leaving Tom and me in an awkward silence. See, Tom? I said softly. Not as bad as you thought, huh? Sally's really nice. Tom just gave a tiny nod. I knew he was still a bundle of nerves, but at least he wasn't fighting it anymore. That was something. A minute later, Sally was back, her arms loaded with bras in all sorts of colors and styles. Here we go. I picked out a few different kinds so Mr. Tom can see what feels good. We've got this basic smooth one, super comfy for every day. This one has some lace, a little more feminine. And this one, she held up a fire engine red push-up bra, this one will give you that wow factor. I had to laugh at Sally's enthusiasm. Tom looked like he was about to pass out. All right, Tom, Sally said gently. Let's head to a fitting room. Would you like your wife to come in with you? Tom nodded frantically, his eyes begging me. Of course, I said. I'll come with you. Sally showed us into a roomy fitting room with a big mirror and good lighting. She hung the bras on hooks and smiled. Take your time. Just give a shout if you need anything. The door clicked shut. It was just Tom and me. He stood there, staring at the bras on the wall, a war of emotions on his face. Well? I asked, keeping my voice light. Which one do you want to try first? He sighed, then pointed to the plain nude-colored bra. That one. I took it down and handed it to him. Need a hand? He nodded, and I helped him put on his very first bra. His skin felt cool under my fingers. I could feel the tension radiating off him. Once the bra was fastened securely, I stepped back. Turn around, Tom. Take a look in the mirror. Slowly, Tom turned to face the mirror. He stared at his reflection. A man with broad shoulders and a flat chest, now with a soft curve, sculpted by the bra. How does it feel? I asked, dying to know his reaction. He didn't say anything, just reached up and lightly touched the fabric over his chest. His eyes held an unreadable expression, surprise, confusion, and maybe, just a flicker of curiosity. It's not bad, he whispered, his voice raspy. A little weird, but not bad. I smiled. See? Told you. Now let's try another one. The try-on session continued. The black lace bra made him look surprisingly sexy. The red push-up definitely had that wow factor Sally mentioned, making his chest look much fuller. With every new bra, I saw Tom linger a little longer in front of the mirror, the tension in his face slowly easing, replaced by a growing fascination. "Which one's your favorite?" I asked as he was checking himself out in a thickly padded, pale pink bra that looked great with his skin tone. He hesitated. I don't know. This one feels pretty comfortable." He gestured to the one he was wearing. "And it makes my girls look more real." I burst out laughing when he used Sally's term girls. "Yes, your girls look absolutely lovely in that one." Sally tapped lightly on the door. "Everything okay in there?" "Everything's great, Sally," I called back. "We found a few winners. Now we're probably going to look at some panties." "Wonderful." Sally's voice came through the door. "Come on out when you're ready. I'll help you pick out some matching panties." Tom looked at me, still a little hesitant, but that initial, fierce resistance was almost gone. In its place was a kind of grudging acceptance, and maybe, a secret thrill he wasn't ready to admit to yet. I knew this was just the beginning. My project to transform Tom was far from over. But looking at him now, in a feminine bra, I felt a strange kind of satisfaction. He was slowly, painstakingly, coming out of his shell, even if it was under duress. And I would be the one to guide him on this new journey of discovery. We walked out of the fitting room. Tom still had his t-shirt on over the bra, but I knew the pale pink one he liked was underneath. He tried to act casual, but his flushed ears and the way he avoided eye contact gave him away. Sally greeted us with that same unwavering smile. "So, you found some bras you love? Excellent. Now, let's dive into the wonderful world of panties." She led us to another part of the store, a kaleidoscope of panties in every style, color, and material imaginable. Simple cotton briefs, low-rise bikinis, boy shorts, delicate lacy thongs, daring G-strings, and even tummy control shapers. Tom looked like he was about to have a panic attack. He just stood there, frozen, eyes darting everywhere, his earlier horror returning tenfold. So many," he managed to whisper. "Don't worry, Tom," I said, taking his hand. "Sally will help us narrow it down." Sally was a pro. For men venturing into women's underwear, comfort and good coverage are usually top priorities at first. However, she winked, "We can't forget about looking and feeling good, can we?" She started pulling out a few options. "These are bikini cut, stretch cotton, really comfy for every day. Nude or black are always good for versatility." She held up a plain nude pair. Then she picked up another, this one turquoise silk with a delicate lace trim. "How about these? Silk feels amazing against the skin, so soft and breathable. And the lace adds a nice feminine touch." Tom just stared, completely speechless. I could practically see the wheels turning in his head as he tried to picture himself wearing them. "Or, maybe something a little more adventurous?" Sally suggested, holding up a black lace thong. "These can be a bit of a leap at first, but they offer a very unique sensation." Tom's face went scarlet. No, thank you. I think the simpler ones are probably best." I had to stifle a laugh. "Sally, maybe we should stick to the safer bets for Tom for now. He's still, easing into it." "Absolutely," Sally agreed cheerfully. "Okay, so a few cotton bikinis, and maybe a couple of the silk ones with lace? Mr. Tom, do you want to try these on, or should we just go by your bra size for a general fit?" Just pick the size," Tom said quickly, clearly desperate to avoid another round in the fitting room, especially with panties. "Okay, then a large or XL, depending on the stretch, should work for his hips," Sally said, giving Tom a quick once-over. She efficiently picked out 5 or 6 pairs in neutrals like black, nude, and white, plus a few in softer, more feminine colors like pale pink and turquoise. "There you go," she said, handing me the little shopping basket. "Anything else I can get for you?" We also have some beautiful nightgowns, loungewear sets, and even some very sexy bodysuits. Tom's eyes practically bulged out of his head at the mention of bodysuits. I figured he'd reached his limit for the day. "Thanks, Sally," I said. "I think this is plenty for today. Tom needs some time to get used to everything." I glanced at Tom and saw him let out a tiny sigh of relief. "But perhaps," I added, my voice dripping with insinuation, "we'll be back soon to explore some more." Sally beamed. "It was a pleasure. Next time, maybe we can look at some silk pajamas. I bet Mr. Tom would look fantastic in them." "I'm sure he would," I replied, while Tom just ducked his head, avoiding Sally's gaze. We headed to the register. As Sally was ringing us up and carefully folding Tom's new lingerie into a pretty shopping bag, I caught Tom sneaking glances at the bras and panties on display. The fear was gone from his eyes, replaced by an undeniable curiosity, a fascination with this forbidden world he'd never dared to enter. When we left the store, Tom seemed visibly lighter. He walked a little faster, his head held a bit higher. I was carrying the bag with his secret purchases, but I knew the real weight of it was on his mind. "See, Tom?" I said as we walked to the parking garage. It was all okay. Nobody stared, nobody judged. Sally was great. He gave a small nod. She really was nice. "And now you have your very own, first ever set of feminine lingerie," I added, looking him in the eye. "How does that feel?" He was quiet for a beat, then said softly, "Weird. But, not totally awful." He paused, then added, even quieter, "That pink bra, it's actually pretty comfortable." I smiled. A tiny admission, but for Tom, it was a giant leap. "I know. I told you, you might even like it." The drive home was much less tense. Tom wasn't just staring blankly out the window anymore. Every now and then, he'd glance at the shopping bag on the back seat. I knew there was a battle raging in his head, a tug-of-war between old hang-ups and new, unfamiliar feelings. When we got home, I put the bag on the living room coffee table. "All right, Tom. Time for you to really get acquainted with your new friends." He looked at me, his face going a little pale. "What do you mean?" I smiled, "I want you to try them on. Right here. No fitting room, no Sally. Just you and me." Resistance flickered in his eyes again. "Kathy, I really think." "No thinking, Tom," I cut him off, my voice firm. "You agreed. Now do as I say. Get undressed, and put on the set I picked out for you." I pointed to the pale pink bra and a matching silk panty I'd discreetly chosen. He looked at me, then at the floor. Finally, with a sigh that was pure resignation, he started to undress. This time, without any help from me, he put on the bra himself, then slipped into the soft silk panties. As he stood there, in the middle of our living room, wearing nothing but the delicate, feminine lingerie, I had to admit, he looked surprisingly good. The contrast between his masculine build and the soft, girly items was strangely alluring. "Come here," I beckoned, gesturing towards the large mirror on the wall. "Take a good look at yourself, Tom." He walked over slowly, hesitantly meeting his own reflection. This time, with no t-shirt to hide behind, the image was even starker. Broad shoulders, a chest subtly enhanced by the bra, a surprisingly trim waist, and long, muscular legs now set off by the silk panties. He was silent for a long time, just staring at himself. I watched his face, trying to decipher the storm of emotions. There was shame, confusion, but also an undeniable curiosity, maybe even a tiny spark of something like acceptance. "Well?" I asked softly. "Do you look like a girl?" He didn't answer right away. He reached out a hand, tentatively touching the soft silk of the panties, then the lace edge of the bra. A ghost of a smile touched his lips and was gone. It's really soft," he finally said, his voice husky. And you were right. This bra is actually comfortable." I smiled. "I know." "So, Tom," I moved closer, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind, whispering in his ear, "Welcome to my new world, and yours." He shivered slightly as my breath warmed his ear. I could feel the tension in his body slowly ebbing away, replaced by something more vulnerable, more open. The journey had only just begun, but I knew Tom was changing. And I would be there, every step of the way, to guide him, to explore with him, and to mold him into the girl I'd always envisioned. That shopping bag full of lingerie was just the first step. Dresses, blouses, maybe even makeup would follow. I smiled at the thought. My Tom, very soon, wouldn't be the Tom he used to be. He would be my very own work of art. The next few days, I slowly introduced Tom to his new wardrobe. Every morning, I'd pick out a set of women's underwear for him to wear under his regular, masculine work clothes. At first, he put up a fight, saying it was insane and risky. "What if someone finds out, Kathy?" he'd ask, his voice tight with anxiety. "No one's going to find out, Tom," I'd soothe him, my voice sweet but unyielding. "It'll be our little secret. Just a way for you to always remember your inner girl, even when you're playing the serious engineer." Gradually, he got used to the feel of soft silk and lace against his skin, the gentle support of the bra. A few times, I even caught him sneaking a glance down at his chest, a small, private smile playing on his lips as he felt the subtle curve the bra created. The change was happening, slow and steady. But lingerie alone wasn't enough for my vision. I wanted more. I wanted to complete Tom's feminine transformation, at least within the privacy of our home. One Friday night, after dinner, I brought out a large box I'd secretly stashed away. Tom eyed it suspiciously. "What's that, Kathy?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. I smiled, a glint in my eye. "Just a few little things for my girl. I opened the box, revealing a light blue floral sundress, a soft cream-colored silk blouse, and a sleek black pencil skirt. Tom's eyes went wide. "Kathy, you're not seriously thinking?" "Oh, I am seriously thinking, Tom darling," I cut him off. "I want to see you in these. I want to see just how pretty my girl can be." But I'm a man," he protested, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Days of wearing women's underwear had clearly chipped away at his certainty about his masculinity. "So what if you're a man?" I arched an eyebrow. "Men can look beautiful too, can't they? And I think these outfits will look stunning on you." I picked up the floral dress, holding it against him. "This blue will really bring out your complexion." Tom backed away a step, looking utterly bewildered. I don't think I can do this, Kathy." The lingerie was more than enough. "Not nearly enough, Tom," I said, my voice firming. "I want to see you fully embrace this. Just once, for now. For me, okay?" I played the sympathy card, knowing he had a hard time saying no when I put it like that. He looked at me, a battle raging in his eyes. Finally, he let out a long sigh. Just this once?" "Of course," I lied smoothly. "Just this once." I knew that once he tried it, there'd be a second time, and a third, and many more. I helped him into the floral dress. The soft cotton fabric clung to his frame, creating surprising new lines. The dress hit him mid-calf, showing off his well-defined legs, which somehow looked more slender in the feminine outfit. "Give me a twirl," I instructed, phone camera at the ready. Tom awkwardly spun around. The skirt flared out gently. He looked, oddly graceful. His masculinity wasn't erased, but it blended with the dress's femininity, creating a unique, almost androgynous appeal. "Amazing," I chirped, snapping a few pictures. "You look absolutely adorable, Tom." Tom flushed, but I saw a flicker of something, maybe interest? In his eyes as he saw himself on my phone screen. He smoothed down his hair, a very feminine gesture he probably wasn't even aware of making. Next up was the cream silk blouse and the pencil skirt. This ensemble made Tom look more sophisticated, almost chic. The soft silk draped beautifully over his chest, already subtly shaped by the bra. The pencil skirt hugged his waist and hips, creating a silhouette that would make many women envious. More pictures. Lots of them. I directed him into poses, hand on hip, a delicate touch to his thigh, a shy smile. He was stiff and awkward at first, but with my encouragement and direction, he slowly started to loosen up. He even tried a few poses on his own, glancing at himself in the mirror with a new kind of curiosity. "See, Tom?" I said, showing him the photos. "You have so much potential. You could be a truly beautiful girl. He stared at the pictures, silent. His face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, embarrassment, surprise, and maybe, just maybe, a quiet flicker of pride. "I think we should keep these," I said nonchalantly. "You never know when they might come in handy." He didn't argue. Just a small nod, his eyes still glued to the images of his feminized self. Our impromptu photo shoot went on for nearly 2 hours. By the end, Tom looked exhausted but also, strangely, a little lighter. He'd cleared another hurdle, broken down another mental barrier. "Is it okay if I keep these pictures?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He hesitated for a beat. "Do what you want, Kathy." I smiled. That was all the permission I needed. These photos would be a powerful tool, a constant reminder to Tom of his new self, and another way for me to tighten my control. That night, after Tom had changed back into his usual, decidedly male pajamas, he seemed more thoughtful. He wasn't avoiding my gaze anymore. Instead, he'd look at me with a searching expression, as if trying to figure out what was going on inside my head, and his own. "Kathy," he said suddenly, as we were getting ready for bed. "Yes, Tom? Do you really like seeing me like that?" he asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. I turned to face him, looking him straight in the eye. "Yes, Tom. I do. I love exploring this side of you. It makes you more interesting, more layered. And in a strange way, it makes me feel closer to you." He was quiet, mulling over my words. I knew there was some truth to what I said, but also a healthy dose of manipulation. I wanted him to believe this was good for us, that it would make our bond stronger. "So, are we going to keep doing this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I smiled, a smile of pure triumph. "Of course, Tom darling. This is just the beginning. There are so many more exciting things for us to discover together." I pulled him into a hug, feeling the warmth of his body. He still had a long way to go, still so many fears and anxieties, but I knew he was starting to accept his new reality. The reality of a man learning to live with his inner girl, all under the careful, controlling guidance of the wife he loved. And I, Kathy, would be the one pulling all the strings. I would decide when Tom was Tom, and when he was Tony, the feminine alter ego I'd secretly named for him. Our life, I knew, would never be boring again. I was absolutely sure of it. The weeks that followed settled into a new kind of rhythm. Tom wearing women's underwear every day became a non-negotiable part of our routine. He'd still blush a little when I picked out particularly frilly lace sets or daring thongs, but the outright resistance was mostly gone. A couple of times, when I deliberately chose a plain cotton set, he actually seemed a little disappointed, as if he'd been anticipating something more stimulating. On weekend evenings, Tony would make her appearance. I'd select feminine dresses or soft, flowing silk nightgowns for him, and we'd watch movies or listen to music. I noticed Tom, or Tony, as he was becoming, moving with more ease and grace in these clothes. He wasn't trying to shy away from his reflection anymore. In fact, he'd often catch his own eye in the mirror, subtly adjusting his hair or the drape of his skirt. One evening, he was wearing a vibrant floral maxi dress, swaying gently to the mellow jazz I had on, when I asked him out of the blue, "Tom, do you actually feel anything when you wear these things? I mean, beyond the initial awkwardness." He stopped, looking at me, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. I'm not really sure anymore, Kathy. At first, yeah, it was all fear and shame. But now, sometimes, I feel a sense of relief. Relief? That surprised me. Yeah, he nodded. It's like a part of me I've always pushed down, always tried to hide, is finally getting a chance to breathe. Wearing these soft fabrics, being someone else for a little while, there's a strange kind of freedom in it. He hesitated, then added, his voice softer, and sometimes I actually think I look pretty. That confession sent a little jolt through me. It was what I'd been working towards, but hearing him say it himself was different. He was starting to not just accept, but even enjoy this new persona. I know, Tom, I smiled, walking over to him. You are very pretty as Tony. A very special kind of pretty. I reached out and gently touched his cheek. And I love both Tom and Tony. He leaned his head against my shoulder, a rare, tender gesture. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for helping me explore this. Even though it's still really scary sometimes. Scary? I prompted. What are you still afraid of? I'm afraid of other people finding out, he admitted. I'm terrified of what they'd think. Our friends, my colleagues, our families. How would they react? Would they still accept me? His fear was completely valid. Society still had a long way to go, and a man who enjoyed wearing women's clothes was often seen as an oddity, or worse. I held him tighter. Don't worry about that, Tom. This is our secret. No one has to know unless we want them to. And the people who truly love you and care about you, they'll accept you no matter what your preferences are. I said it to reassure him, but deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. But, what if someday, you want me to go out like this? He asked, his voice laced with anxiety. Would you ever ask me to do that? That question gave me pause. Had I thought about it? Maybe, in my more daring daydreams. The image of Tom as the beautiful Tony, on my arm at a party, turning heads. The thought was both thrilling and a little terrifying. Don't get ahead of yourself, Tom, I said, trying to sidestep the question. For now, let's just enjoy these private moments. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But Tom's anxiety wasn't baseless. A few times, while we were in the middle of a Tony dress-up session, the doorbell had rung unexpectedly. Once it was a package delivery, another time our neighbor needing to borrow something. Both times, Tom had gone into a full-blown panic, scrambling to hide in the bathroom while I dealt with the interruption. Those little scares were a constant reminder of how fragile our private world was, how easily Tom's secret could be exposed. Tom's burgeoning enjoyment of his new self came with other side effects. He started paying more attention to his appearance in general, even as Tom. He was fussier about his hair, his skin, even sneaking some of my moisturizer. He also started noticing women's fashion more, on the street, in magazines, sometimes with an almost wistful look in his eyes. One day at the grocery store, he spent a surprisingly long time at the magazine rack, flipping through women's fashion and beauty glossies. I watched him with an amused smile. Find anything interesting, Tom? I teased. He jumped, quickly putting the magazine back. No, nothing. Just looking. If you like them, we can grab a few, I suggested. Might give Tony some new ideas, don't you think? He blushed but didn't say no. So, our shopping cart that day ended up with a couple of women's fashion magazines tucked between the broccoli and the chicken breasts. Tom's transformation wasn't just skin deep. His personality was subtly shifting too. He was gentler, less prone to irritation. He listened more, and he was more willing to share his feelings, something he'd rarely done before. Our relationship felt deeper, more complex, and in a strange way, more connected than ever. Still, that fear of discovery was always there, a shadow lurking in the background. Sometimes I'd see Tom jump at a sudden noise, or get antsy if someone looked at him for too long. He was still Tom, a fundamentally shy and vulnerable man, no matter how confident or flamboyant Tony might become in the safety of our home. I knew that for Tom to truly embrace this new part of himself, he'd have to confront that fear. And maybe, just maybe, I'd have to create situations that forced him to, even if it made him uncomfortable. Because real transformation isn't just about changing clothes, it's about changing your entire mindset. A bold idea started to take root in my mind. A trip, a getaway to somewhere no one knew us. A place where Tony could step out, not just in a hotel room, but maybe even in public. It would be a massive test, but also a chance for Tom to truly break free. I hadn't mentioned this plan to Tom yet. I needed time to prepare, both practically and emotionally, for him. But I knew it was the next logical step in Tom's unveiling. And I couldn't wait to see how he'd react. This little game of ours was getting more interesting by the day, and I was definitely holding all the cards. Time kept slipping by, and Tony became an increasingly essential thread in the fabric of our lives. The dresses, the feminine lingerie, even the subtle makeup I'd acquired for Tom, now occupied a dedicated section of our closet. Tom no longer fought me on wearing them. In fact, he was quite cooperative, sometimes even offering his own tentative suggestions for Tony's hairstyle or a new shade of lipstick. This shift wasn't just about appearance. I noticed Tom leaning on me more and more for decisions, not just concerning Tony, but in everyday matters too. He'd ask my opinion on everything, from what tie to wear to work, to what we should do on the weekend. The self-assured, decisive man he once was seemed to have faded, replaced by an almost complete reliance on my judgment. This, I had to admit, gave me an intoxicating sense of power and absolute control. I wasn't going to deny that I relished it. I liked that Tom needed me, that he'd readily comply with my suggestions and demands. It made me feel like the epicenter of his world, the only one who truly understood and accepted all the complex layers of his being. One evening, after Tony had completed her nightly beauty ritual, she was wearing a stunning deep purple silk nightgown, her hair perfectly coiffed, a delicate sheen of gloss on her lips. We were curled up on the sofa, sipping wine. "Tom," I began, my voice soft but loaded with intent. "Have you ever thought about our future? About what role Tony will play in it?" He looked at me, a flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "What do you mean, Kathy?" I set down my wine glass, turning to face him fully, taking his surprisingly soft hands in mine. "Have you noticed how much our lives have changed since Tony came into the picture?" He nodded. "Yes. I feel like I've changed, too." "So have I said. "And I've realized something, Tom. I like this change. I like this new version of you, more vulnerable, more open, and more willing to yield to me." He shivered almost imperceptibly at the word yield, but he didn't pull his hands away. I pressed on, my voice firmer now. "Tom, you need to understand that from this point forward, you belong to me. Utterly and completely. Both Tom and Tony. Every decision you make, every choice, will need my approval." Silence filled the room. Tom looked at me, his expression a maelstrom of emotions. Surprise, fear, but also something that looked almost like resigned acceptance. He'd grown used to my lead, used to following my directives. My declaration, as autocratic as it sounded, didn't seem to be entirely out of left field for him. "Kathy, what are you saying?" he asked, his voice raspy. "I've always belonged to you." "That's true," I smiled. "But before, you still had your secrets, your private corners. Now, I want all of it. I want to be in control of every facet of your life, of who you are. Do you understand what I'm saying?" He looked down at his hands, still clasped in mine. I think I understand." "Good," I said, squeezing his hands gently. "And that means, in the future, any request I make, no matter how outlandish or challenging it might seem, you will comply. No arguments, no hesitation. Can you promise me that, Tom?" This was it. A vow. A binding contract. I needed to hear him say the words. He lifted his head, looking me straight in the eye. His gaze held a profound sense of surrender, but also, strangely, a hint of relief. Perhaps for someone as naturally timid and anxious as Tom, giving up the burden of control, handing over the reins of his life to someone else, was a peculiar kind of liberation. "I promise," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'll do anything you want, Kathy." I smiled, a slow, satisfied, victorious smile. Good girl, Tony. I leaned in and brushed a soft kiss across his lips. I know you won't let me down. From that night on, our relationship shifted into a new gear. My control over Tom became more overt, more explicit. I dictated everything, what Tony would wear, how her makeup would be done, even what Tom did in his spare time and who he saw. He no longer put up a fight, he accepted my arrangements with a quiet, almost placid obedience. Occasionally, I'd catch a fleeting shadow of doubt in his eyes, a whisper of regret for the autonomy he'd surrendered. But those moments were quickly extinguished by the fear of my disapproval, or perhaps, by the sheer comfort of no longer having to make the hard decisions himself. I know some people might look at this and call it unhealthy, might say I was being manipulative, excessively controlling. But frankly, I didn't care. I was happy. And Tom, in his own way, seemed more at peace than he'd been in years. He'd found a new role, a new identity, and a guide who was more than willing to take charge of his life. My project to transform Tom had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. He hadn't just accepted his feminine side, he'd completely surrendered to my will. He had truly become my girl, a masterpiece I had meticulously sculpted. And I knew, with a thrill, that this wasn't the end. There were still so many experiments I wanted to try, so many boundaries I was eager to push. Tom, or Tony, would be my compliant partner on this exhilarating journey of discovery. Our future, I knew, would be anything but dull. I smiled at the thought. Tom was mine now, completely and utterly, and I had no intention of ever letting him go. He was mine. Forever. My declaration that night felt like the final brushstroke, completing the portrait of our redefined relationship. Tom, or more accurately, Tony, during those increasingly frequent and extended private moments, had wholly embraced her role. Submission was no longer a reluctant act, it had woven itself into the fabric of her new being, a surprising comfort found in my guidance and absolute authority. I began to push the boundaries even further. It wasn't just about dresses and lingerie anymore. I delved into the world of accessories, high heels, and even an array of wigs to bring Tony closer to perfection. Each time I introduced a new element, I watched his reactions intently. The initial flicker of surprise would quickly morph into curiosity, then blossom into a genuine delight as he saw himself in the mirror, his appearance growing more polished, more undeniably feminine. The first pair of high heels was a significant hurdle. Tom's feet, so used to practical sneakers and sensible dress shoes, were clumsy and unsteady on the precarious stilettos. He stumbled several times, his face wincing with discomfort. But I was patient, coaching him, helping him find his balance, guiding him step by tentative step through our apartment. A true lady must master the art of walking in heels, Tony, I'd tell him, my tone a blend of gentle admonishment and firm encouragement. And you will. And she did. After days of dedicated practice, Tony's gait became more fluid, more confident. She even started to enjoy the added height, the way it changed her posture, lending an elegant sway to her movements. Wigs were another transformative step. Tom's short, masculine haircut, no matter how styled, couldn't fully capture the feminine ideal I was cultivating. I ordered several wigs in various styles and shades, a chic, edgy bob, long, cascading waves that exuded sensuality, a head of romantic, bouncy curls. The first time Tony put on a wig, the effect was startling. Looking in the mirror, her face, still bearing Tom's underlying structure, was softened, harmonized by the frame of flowing hair. Her eyes lit up, a genuine, radiant smile spreading across her lips. In that moment, I knew Tony had truly arrived. Makeup, too, became an essential part of Tony's daily ritual. I taught her the nuances of eyeliner, the subtle art of blush, the impact of the right lip color. Her hands were shaky at first, her lines uneven. But with my unwavering instruction and her own diligent effort, Tony's makeup skills steadily improved. She learned to accentuate her best features, to cleverly camouflage any hint of Tom, and to craft a look that was undeniably beautiful and captivating. Our life began to revolve around the cultivation of Tony. By day, Tom remained the competent engineer, but beneath his starched shirts and tailored pants, he always wore the feminine underpinnings I selected for him, a constant, intimate reminder of his hidden self, and of my pervasive influence. And each evening, returning home, he seemed almost eager to shed his masculine skin and transform into Toni, my beautiful, pliant girl. We started having date nights within the confines of our apartment. Toni would dress in her most glamorous outfits, makeup impeccably applied, teetering gracefully on her heels, and we would cook together, watch old movies, or even dance slowly in the living room. In those moments, I saw pure, unadulterated happiness in Toni's eyes, a complete release from the constraints and expectations of his former life. She laughed more freely, spoke with more animation, and expressed her emotions with an openness that Tom had never allowed himself. Occasionally, the old fears would surface. The anxiety about being discovered still whispered in Toni's ear. "Kathy," she'd murmur, her voice small, "if anyone ever found out, what would I do?" I would draw her close, stroking her hair. "Don't you worry your pretty little head, Toni darling. I'll always be here to protect you. And no matter what happens, you'll always be my most beautiful girl." My words were a balm, but also a subtle reinforcement of my ownership. She was mine, and nothing and no one could penetrate the sanctuary we had built. Yet, I knew that keeping Toni hidden away indefinitely wasn't sustainable. A part of me yearned to showcase my creation, to witness the world's reaction to the stunning, confident Toni. But another, more cautious part, worried that such exposure could shatter the delicate equilibrium we'd achieved. The idea of a trip, a discreet getaway where Toni could finally step out into the world, continued to marinate in my mind. It would be the ultimate test, the moment of truth to see if Toni could truly flourish beyond the cocoon of my control. One evening, as Toni sat at her vanity, meticulously applying her lipstick, I came up behind her, resting my hands on her shoulders. "Toni," I said softly, "how would you feel about a little vacation? Somewhere beautiful, somewhere you could just be yourself, with no need to hide." She looked up, her eyes widening in surprise, then a spark of genuine excitement ignited within them. "Really, Kathy? I could?" "Of course, sweetie," I smiled. "I think it's high time Toni had her coming out." The excitement on her face faltered, quickly replaced by a familiar apprehension. But I'd be terrified. People would stare, they'd whisper. "And I'll be right there with you, every step of the way," I reassured her. "We'll face it together. This is your chance to be truly free, Toni. Do you want to take it?" She was quiet for a long moment, her gaze fixed on her reflection, a beautiful, undeniably feminine woman, yet still shadowed by a lingering timidity. Finally, she took a deep, steadying breath and nodded. I do, Kathy. I want to try." I smiled. "That's my girl. Well then, start planning your wardrobe. Our real adventure is about to begin." The future remained unwritten, a tantalizing unknown. Would Toni possess the resilience to navigate the complexities of the outside world? Would my influence be enough to shield her, to ensure her happiness? I couldn't say for sure. But one thing was certain, Tom, now more Toni than ever, was irrevocably mine. She was my girl, my masterpiece, and I would dedicate myself to her continued protection and perfection. Our story was far from over. It was merely turning a new, more audacious page. And I, Kathy, would remain the author, meticulously crafting each chapter of this extraordinary, captivating life. Tom had surrendered to his destiny, and in doing so, had found a strange kind of liberation. We had carved out a unique world for ourselves, a reality understood by few, and in that shared, secret space, we had found our own version of everything.